Give me a shout in the comments if you guys can see me and hear me. That would be wonderful. Yeah. Welcome to another live show, another live She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And most importantly, getting into the chat and letting me know how you guys are thinking and feeling. Listen, it's been a crazy couple of days, hasn't it, as an Arsenal fan? And so I think a lot of people are hoping and wishing that, we get something done in this transfer window. I woke up this morning and first of all, I was up until like 4:00 in the morning randomly. And when I woke up at like 7:38, maybe, I looked at my phone and I was like, what? Zubimendi? What? This is so random. And oh, it says I'm lagging. You guys are saying I'm lagging. Hold on. Let's see. I hear you guys that I'm lagging. Just give me 2 seconds. Sometimes it just needs a minute, especially with everything that's going down with the fires and stuff. Sometimes the internet is impacted. So I read that. So yeah. And maybe I should connect my other thing. Well, no, it's fine. We'll survive it. If it gets too bad, we'll try to fix it somehow. But yeah, with the fires, it's a little, here or there. But yeah, we got a transfer Bamba. Maybe not the Bamba that we were hoping for or anticipating, but how freaking random is it that Arsenal are really close to, I guess, securing the Zubimendi for the summer? I have a couple of different thoughts about this. One, let's do glass half empty, glass half full. I think it's important to get, context and, not just read everything from a negative standpoint or a positive standpoint. Glass half full is that, we should be moving on both Jorginho and Partey this summer. I've been saying this for months now that we need to move players on quicker. We need to move players on much quicker. I think, I know that I was one of the first people to say that Jesus needed to be moved on halfway through last season, and I was laughed at. I remember being on Diluted Show and then basically saying that, I was crazy for saying that he's still a quality player. The reality is that when it's obvious you need to sell a player, it's probably too late. And we always sell a player too late, or we move on a player too late. And I do think we're a little bit too late on the Jorginho and Partey kind of train. I think they should have been moved on. Jorginho should have been moved on probably, instantly. I think he was just a stopgap. And when stopgaps start to become more important to your team, it's probably because you're not necessarily moving quick enough in the market to fill those holes with adequate replacements. And then with Partey, it's just the wages, the missed games, the age, it's been more than time to move him on. So yeah, for Zubimendi will obviously be somebody that Arsenal would be looking to fill that role in the squad. And so this role, no matter if it's now or in the summer, was going to need to be filled. Now, there's several different things here. Is that, Zubimendi is definitely a number 6. And so that also would solidify Rice in the 8. And so, listen, uh, you guys know how I feel about Rice in the 8. I don't think it's the way forward. I think it limits us creatively. It's a big game kind of thing, but we don't play against Liverpool every week. We don't play against City every week. And we just need that additional creativity in one of those positions. And I just don't think that Rice is an adequate Xhaka replacement. And so, yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. I think it'll operate pretty similarly if you watch Zubimendi play. I do think that he operates a little like more similarly to Jorginho. And so the back end of last season is probably what Arteta is hoping for, which was great, but it also was not perfect. And so we still need other things to add to this group, add to this squad. People talk about the timing, glass half empty is that Arsenal are briefing, the media on this to kind of appease the fans. And I do think it's an opportunistic time to talk about a transfer that probably won't happen until the summer, but this is something that needed to get done. Now, I do remember throughout this past summer that when we were only really linked and trying to get in Calafiori, because remember the Calafiori deal was happening like early, was that, everybody was like, but we need this left back. We need this left back. So I don't know why everybody's complaining so much. We need this left back. We need this left back. The problem with this is that we know that buying DMs and buying left backs have ended with Arsenal not getting the other things that they need to get done. Because for all the people that I don't know why Arsenal fans are so upset that we're getting Calafiori. We know we need a left back. We got Zinchenko, we got so-and-so. We know we need a left back. Is that fast forward to the last day of the transfer window, we were looking at Raheem Sterling. So just because we need this doesn't mean that we always get all the things like, the first thing that you get is not always the priority. Well, it's not unless it's Arsenal. Arsenal usually go out and get the first thing that they get is the thing that they really want. And then they leave the important things that are important to us later down the line, So I see both sides of it that, yeah, of course we need this DM and I'm not gonna, it's not my perfect scenario. I would love Rice to just be the 6 and for us to go for somebody more attacking. But, if this is what Arteta's like whole vision is that he's going to play, kind of like a 8-6 and then Zubimendi's going to play in the 6, that's fine because we need to replace Jorginho and Partey. And I'd rather that be the first thing done because I don't want to hear about this shit in the summer. I don't want to hear about a 6. I don't want to hear about a left back. We're going to have such a long laundry list of things to do in the summer that the first thing I want off the list is that left back and that goalkeeper and that DM. I want those things sorted instantly so that we can get to the real deal business. The real deal business. So yeah, it's mostly just, glass half full is that we're getting something done early. Glass half empty is this briefing from, the club so that they could appease the fans and also the outlay for Zubimendi, because remember, it is a release clause. And I remind people of this all the time is that I really don't think people grasp how much more difficult it is to pay a release clause than to pay just 50 million just regular. When you have to give the money all up front, it puts a strain on the rest of the budget. Arsenal are a Klarna type of club. They want to pay 5 million up front and then pay 10 million in installments for the next 20 years. So if they're going to go out on a limb and spend 50 million on Zubimendi right off the bat, then you have to imagine that's going to put a little bit of a strain on a budget that probably is not big anyway, and also needs to be able to get the left back and the backup goalkeeper. Hopefully we don't spend anything on those two. Really, we really do look for like bargains. Like I'm talking about, I would sign Neto again as the backup goalkeeper for nothing from Bournemouth. For nothing. I'd be like, if you can give him to us for 5 million, I take that. Get some young player or something like that for left back, unless you can get somebody that you just can't turn down. And then everything else has to go forward. Attacking mid, left wing, and striker. I think we need all three of those positions looked at. 100%. We need an attacking mid that can play left 8. And left wing, we need a left winger that gives us a little bit more physicality, pace, trickery, something. And we also need a 9, a true number 9. Excuse me. So yeah, we need a lot of things. And so although I'm like, cool, we're getting things done early, there's never a guarantee that that doesn't mean that we're going to miss out on things in the summer. 100%. So yeah, let's see what you guys are saying. Mr. Happy says, isn't Neto contract up in the summer? It may be. And so again, if his contract is up, I would be doing a pre-contract with him now. I know he hasn't played yet for us and he's been cup tied, but he won't be cup tied next season. And I just don't think Arsenal fans have convinced themselves that a backup goalkeeper needs to be something special. Yeah, but City. I don't give a fuck what City is doing. City got to a place where they had already built a league-winning squad and then went out and got whatever the fuck his name is, that really good backup goalkeeper that they have. I know that Liverpool have a really good backup goalkeeper. We are so far away from a backup goalkeeper needing to be something special. We don't need to even be thinking about that. That should not be anything that is important to us right now. We need to address the positions that keep haunting us from season to season to season. So Neto, I don't give a fuck. Pre-sign him up. I don't care. Talk to Bournemouth. Get him on for freaking cheap. And I don't want to hear about a backup goalkeeper anymore. Tell Inaki Kanya no. Whatever he wants, just say no for once. MM says, isn't it a risk that if he gets a long-term injury, would have preferred if it was done in May, in my opinion? If you're talking about Zubimendi, potentially, there's risk and reward to everything. The risk to it is like, yeah, if he gets a long-term injury, then maybe we're fucked. I don't know. But if the plus to it is it's done early, because we won't be the only team on the planet looking for a player of his, quality and profile. So I just want it done, so yeah. Blake says players in Arteta need to step up in the next game. Some Arsenal fans said with Chest, our current players are better than former players, but we didn't win trophies yet. Silly Billy Killy says, do you think signing Zubimendi is a way of convincing Williams to sign this month? I don't know if Zubimendi can be used as any sort of like bargaining chip or anything for Nico Williams. I think the main issue with him is the wages. And so if he doesn't come down with the wages, then I just don't see how we get it done. But Arsenal still sniffing around him may signal that they think it's something that can get done. I don't think we're going to be able to get Williams in this window. I think if we do get an attacker in this window, it's going to end up being somebody that is alone. It's going to be a loan from somewhere else. And I'm going to check it now because, usually the information comes out later, but Vlahovic is not even in the squad for Juventus. They're about to buy Kolo Muani or bring in Kolo Muani. And so, we have been linked to Vlahovic over the last couple of days. We've been linked to him for the last couple of years. That might be somebody that we can look at. And at this stage in the season, my whole thing with Vlahovic is he's not even somebody that I like. Oh, they said he's injured. Okay, fair enough. But he's not even somebody that I like that much. I just want to see Arsenal try, if that makes sense. Even if it's not a player that I particularly like that much. Like, Vlahovic is not my guy. Like, he's really not. But could he be anything? He really can't be worse than what we have. Jesus, ACL, Havertz, do not even want to even start to delve into that conversation. So as much as I know, like Mr. Happy is saying, Vlahovic is so bad, I genuinely don't think people realize how bad our situation is when it comes to goal scoring. It's so bad that I would take Vlahovic on a loan. That's how bad it is, So yeah, I'm sorry, but we're in the beggars can't be choosers category, and we have unraveled so much that we're no longer in that, that pretty seat that we were sitting in after the 2022-2023 season, where people were saying that we were the best young project in Europe. Arteta was being lauded as one of the best coaches in Europe. We had all these great players. Odegaard was at the peak. Saka was at his peak. Martinelli was at his peak. And we just needed to add those just couple more quality players in the team and then we would be complete. We have unraveled from that point. We are no longer in the space where we could pretty much get anybody we want except for the tip 1% elite. That's where we were. We were at a point where if we could have gotten almost anybody that we wanted in that window. We're no longer in that window anymore. We have unraveled from that. So we're not in a position just to go get the Isak. We're not in the position where we could just go get whatever special left center mid. We're going to have to go back to young players that, need a little bit of sprucing up. That's where we are, because we need 4 or 5 players. We're no longer the most interesting and up and coming young project. There's no real guarantee at this stage that we're going to be in the top 4 at the end of the season. Sorry, but we're beggars can't be choosers. Simon says he is injured and they are still looking to buy him. What a joke. It depends on what kind of injury it is. It depends on what kind of injury it is. If it's just something that, if it's just something minor, then yeah. Neo says Benjamin Sesko, young, agile, aerial threat, powerful shots. We need a clinical finisher. So many people said fuck Sesko in the summer and are now changing their tune. And I just want to say that, like, how many times are you going to see the same story happen over and over? How many times you need to see a talented young player in a different league and just, I don't know what Arsenal has done to some of your guys' brains, but it's like Arteta has convinced you guys that the only types of players that we should get are overpriced Prem players that we just know are talented. You can see Sesko is talented. I don't know why people are pretending like he's not. Yeah, we need a ready now. We're not going to get a ready now player. And some of the players that people are talking about as well, there's a reason why people don't want them. But Sesko, he looks like the next Isak in terms of nobody wants him. First of all, his metrics compared to Isak's at this stage are much better. And there's at least 2 seasons of evidence of great ball striking, agile, physicality, different types of finishes. And people don't want him because, yeah, but he's a project. Do you guys know what a project is? A project would have been Mudryk. Mudryk is a project. Mudryk is somebody that was extremely raw, came from a non-top 5 league, had about 30 games under his belt where he didn't really show anything. He was raw talent that needed to be honed. Sesko comes straight into our team, and some of the chances that Havertz missed against Newcastle and also against Manchester United, he puts those in the back of the net. Simple as. Just because somebody is young and needs a little bit of sprucing up doesn't mean they cannot contribute. And so I'm not surprised so many people are turning back to Sesko and they're like, yeah, well, yeah. It's like, yeah. Yeah. We're not in a position to just be like, yeah, well, we just need to find the next Holland. We need to find our Holland. Like, there is no Holland for us. We need to go get somebody that we know is talented, might just need a different environment to explode. That's what we need. Hello? MM says we can get Gittins, Sesko, Shirky, and Dorgu, just pure talent. And that's where I feel like that's where we are. We're not in a position where we could just get 1 or 2 elite players. We're just not there. We've gone backwards. So these younger players and getting multiple of those is probably our best thing to do, especially like beyond this, like in the summer. Like in the summer for sure. In the January transfer window, you just have to kind of get what you can. But Gittins looks really interesting. Obviously, Sesko is the most obvious Isak 2.0. He's not exactly the same in terms of the player. Sesko is a little bit more of like a pure 9 than Isak, because we know Isak has like that special flair and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of like, he's doing really well in the league that he's in, but we pretend like you need to get somebody Premier League proven or else we just can't risk it. How the biggest risk that we ever took was spending 65 million on a player that we already knew wasn't very good, so how much bigger of a risk could bringing in Sesko be? Let's be honest. But Shirky, I think he has attitude problems. Arteta will never bring him in. He'll never take the risk, even at a low fee. But getting Sesko, I don't know a lot about Dorgu, but a lot of people speak very highly of him. There's talent to be had. There's definitely talent to be had. Kwame says this month, Jess, I fancy we should sign Osimhen and Mbomo, and it won't happen. No, we're not going to put out an outlay like that. Mr. says Sesko could grow into one of the best in the world, but he could contribute now. And I think that's Mr. makes a really good point that when people say somebody is a project, they instantly think of somebody that can't that can't contribute at all. And I think maybe that's because, we bought the likes of Sambi and Nuno and maybe even Vieira to a certain extent. And those players were like kind of raw. All three of them actually came from non-top 5 leagues. So there wasn't like a lot to work off of. Fabio Vieira had just kind of come into that Porto side and we took a big risk on him. Tavares was also somebody that was kind of like not well liked and also didn't have a lot to show. Sambi, maybe a little bit more to show because he, was the captain of Anderlecht, but still the Belgium league is not an elite league, right? So I think when you see those not work out, you instantly think, well, those players couldn't contribute anything and they were not really good. So Sesko is going to be the same. When you play in La Liga, in the Bundesliga, in Ligue 1, teams like, and teams like that where they're playing in the Champions League or European competitions and you have 30, 40 games under your belt, 50 games under your belt, a lot of starts and actual GA, you're not a project. You're a young player. There is a difference between a project and a young player. There's a difference between a prospect and a young player. Sesko is just a young player. And I would much rather bring in somebody that's already contributing now at a good level that we know with 5 or 10% could become one of the best in the world. I'd much rather that than go get, I don't know, Cunha. Jordan says Arteta is too stubborn and makes his job complicated. He needs to put faith in players that are not good enough, trying to turn water into wine, get rid of Nelly, and get a striker, and we win majors. He is stubborn. He's so stubborn that we keep going back to the same people and over again. We've only heard Vlahovic, Nico Williams, Zubimendi. Those are like the only people we've been linked to for like the last 2 years. Wayne says it worries me how much the ownership backed Mikel. They are on some ish. They don't worry about this season and we'll back you again in the summer. Errol says 3 players, all from Spain, 1 more to get Isak. That's interesting, Jess. I saw some people saying like, oh, Arsenal just want to copy Real Sociedad. How pathetic. And I'm just like, well, I wasn't aware that Declan Rice played for Sociedad. Like, it's still different. I do think that we just, Arteta likes players from that region. And to be honest, that's a very talented region. And Sociedad do recruit pretty well, so players that they've recruited have done well. And then players that come from that Basque region are talented players. The Basque region, I think, has the most players in that Spanish national team. Not even, Barcelona or Madrid have as many players like from that area. I might be saying it wrong, but the Basque region has the most players in that Spanish national team. So it's not that big of a deal to have players from that region in your team. I just think that we just need to get it done. I think if you want Zubimendi, just get him in. I'm tired of talking about it. If that's the player that you love down, bring him in. I'm tired of whatever the midfield is. It just feels like very much so a stopgap. Our midfield for the last 2 seasons have felt like we're making it work rather than it's something that we strategically put together because that's what we wanted. And so I'd rather see the strategically put together of what we wanted than this hodgepodge of, keeping it too long, stopgappery, kind of thing. Because right now, to me, Partey, Marino, and Jorginho are all decent, some sort of level of a short-term fix, for a long-term problem. So Zubimendi, you're more than welcome here. Fuck it. I'm not going to yell at you like Hussam, but, it's so funny too, because that's my favorite video on the internet is Hussam like crashing out over Zubimendi. I watched it like 3 times already this morning. It was so funny. And I told him the other day, I actually said it on Mo's show the other day, that the reason why he didn't want to go to Liverpool is because he doesn't want to go to Liverpool. He doesn't want to go there. I was like, he would go to freaking London. And they were like, no. And I'm like, London and Liverpool are completely different places. Like, of course he would come to London instead of Liverpool. And it's funny, just like another week goes by and then boom. Omar says Zubi means Jorginho is out. And he's also, negotiating with Palmeiras, and I don't actually think, because I know some people were like, let's get Douglas Luiz in on a loan. Douglas Luiz in 2025? Hell no. Like, Douglas Luiz in 2025 is like, let's be so fucking for real right now. Now, do we need to replace Jorginho right this second? No. He's like, we have Declan Rice and Thomas Partey that can both play DM right now. You don't need more than 1, 2, or 2 DMs. Most teams only have 1 really good one. We have 3. so we can actually stand to let Jorginho go. And if next season, it's Declan Rice can play the 6, but Zubimendi's playing there, and then also Miles Lewis-Skelly playing there too, I don't see the problem. Like, I really don't. I don't think we need to invest more in the DM position. I think we've done enough. We've done enough. Let's move forward. Away from that position. But yeah, I would let Jorginho go. I would let him go to Palmeiras in this window, pay a small fee. We'll get something other than nothing. And we'll talk about, Zinchenko as well, because people are like, oh no, we shouldn't let Zinchenko go. I'm like, why not? He's not playing right now. When Calafiori is injured, right this second, you can play Miles Lewis-Skelly there. If Miles Lewis-Skelly isn't there, fuck it, play Kivior there. If Kivior can't play there, fuck it, play Tierney there. If Tierney can't play there, fuck it, move Timber to the other side, and Ben White will be back in a couple of days. We have options at left back. Let him go. Get a fee. Loan with an obligation to buy. Get it done. Because you don't know if there's going to be anybody in the summer that wants that guy. You don't know. So get him out now. Like, there's no reason to keep him around. He's not even being played. Olu says there's a chance Party and J20 leaves this summer. So if both of them leave, then you have Declan Rice that can play DM, and then you have Zubimendi, and then you also have players like Marino and Miles Lewis-Skelly that can play there. We need to get to a point where we're not stocking up on DMs because we're afraid somebody's going to get injured. Most teams just deal. If they don't have their number 1, number 6, guess what? The next guy just makes it work. Liverpool have not had an elite DM for years now. Make it work. City didn't have a replacement for Rodri. Fuck it. Make it work. Like, I'm sorry, but this having 3 DMs just in case doesn't make sense. If you're about to spend 50 million on a release clause for Zubimendi, that's your DM. And then you have several other people, including a 100 million pound signing that can also play there. We don't need more DMs. Get that out of your head. I'm sorry. I don't know what Arteta has done to these fans, but they just are like, it's just like, but we're going to lose Jorginho and Partey. I would love for us to make one of those players, instead of having 3 DMs, balance out the midfield a little bit more. We have too many DMs and not enough creative players. Zubimendi can replace one of Jorginho or Partey, move a young player into that backup role. So you have 3 DMs potentially. You have Miles Lewis-Skelly, Declan Rice, and Jorginho. And one of those positions becomes an attacking midfielder. Like, I don't know why you guys are still so obsessed. It's wild to me. Samuel says, I learned Zubimendi is currently injured, and according to Spanish journalists, the rumor making rounds about Zubimendi and pending move to Arsenal ain't true. Confirm. I don't know. I mean, I'm probably going to go with Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano and Ben Jacobs and, Sammy McBell and all those people instead of Roberto, whoever that is. I mean, he is injured right now, but he's not moving in January. He'd be moving in the summer. Not quite sure why. Honestly, Ornstein and these guys really don't speak this confidently about a signing unless they feel like it's going to happen, to be honest. And most of them said that we're confident and it's not just like we're kind of seeing if we may do it and da-da-da-da. It's like, yeah, it's going to get done. So I don't know who that journalist is, but it might just be somebody that doesn't want him to go to Arsenal or doesn't have good information. But, it'd be difficult for me to believe somebody that I've never heard their name before over people that are literally sticking their necks out. If this doesn't happen, Ornstein, Sammy McBell, Fabrizio Romano are all in the mud. I highly doubt that, And the things that, like, Arsenal are pursuing a deal to sign Martin Zubimendi from Sociedad. AFC working on landing the 25-year-old midfielder next summer for considerable period, and reignited long-term pursuit during the process of recruiting Mikel Merino. Simon McBell, Arsenal to land Real Sociedad midfielder Martin Zubimendi at the end of the season. Fabrizio Romano, Mikel Arteta crucial factor for Arsenal to advance on Martin Zubimendi deal. Arsenal manager, part of the process for the club to get the green light from Zubimendi, same as happened with Declan Rice 2 years ago. Zubimendi in advanced talks with Arsenal for July 2025. Arsenal in advanced talks for Arsenal, it's like, I don't know who that person is, but I'm going to go with the guys that I've seen get things right. Now, it could go wrong, but yeah. New Music says, don't you think Arteta seems indecisive in his signings and contract extensions, changing his mind a lot for particular positions? For example, Ramsdale and Raya, DM position and left back. No, I don't even think it's indecision. I just feel like, because a lot of the stuff that we hear, sometimes it's just rumors. We heard rumors of Trossard getting a new deal, but nobody really significant, like a David Ornstein or Fabrizio, even confirmed that. Nobody confirmed the Partey one either. So I'm not sure that they're going back and forth. It might just be when a lot of times when players are playing well, like ITKs will make it up, because they know that people will like to hear that if somebody is playing well, that they're going to get a contract renewal, or the opposite is when a player is playing poorly, leak that they're going to get a contract renewal so that they can get clicks. But I think they've been pretty decisive on the players that they want to give new deals to. Whether it's worked out or not, is really just based on, what happens, what events actually occur. They were decisive in giving Tomiyasu a new deal. It just so happens that we haven't seen him since, 2011, so yeah, I think he's more, I don't think there's actually any indecision really from Arteta. I think he's very consistent with the ideas that he has, and that's why we actually end up rebuying in certain positions, is because he wants to keep buying in those positions until he gets that idea correct. He wanted a certain type of goalkeeper. We wanted Raya first. We couldn't get him, so we went for Ramsdale. Ramsdale wasn't really the guy. Raya became available, and so we went and got the original guy. How many times have we bought a left back in the same vein? Arteta wanted Lisandro Martinez, who's more of a center back, ended up going with Zinchenko because, Zinchenko was somebody that he knew. What turned around and went and bought Kivior. That didn't work out. Oh, actually, he bought Tomiyasu. He's been injured, bought Kivior. That didn't work. Then bought Calafiori, who's just another version of Kivior. He's very consistent in the ideas that he has. He liked Jorginho, so now he's going to go try to get Zubimendi. He's been consistent in wanting to shoehorn Declan Rice in the 8. So I think he's pretty consistent. He's never gotten a number 9 that's been the true number 9. They've always been facilitators. I actually think he's really, really, really consistent. And I think that's actually the problem, is even if things are not working, he's consistent with it. Marco says, I disagree. Calafiori is not another version of Kivior. He's another version of Kivior in the vein that he wanted to bring in somebody that's more of a center back and play them at left back. So, yeah, I would say that he's an upgraded version on Kivior, what Arteta wanted Kivior to be. I don't think if Kivior had been better, Calafiori would not be here. And if he could have gotten Calafiori sooner, Kivior would not be here. So I completely disagree. Let's see. Alistair says, Jacobs, I agree. Zubimendi is absolutely brilliant signing. If it happens, go get another wing and top striker, and we're looking spicy. And, I think another thing that makes me feel like the reason why Arsenal revealed this information is because they know they're under pressure. They know the fans are not happy. And so they're not going to leak something of this magnitude if they think it's going to fall through. Because if this is your Hail Mary to get the fans to be quiet, you wouldn't use something that's flimsy. You'd use something that you feel like is actually going to come to fruition. So Kolo Muani is going to Juventus. It's happening. Loan. No buy clause. So I'm so upset that we're missing out on Kolo Muani. Oh my God. Sebastian said, it would not surprise me if we go for Hato in the summer if Kivior leaves. Marco, yeah, I think when you thought I was saying that, like, they're on the same level, but that's not really what I meant. So we're on the same page now. Victor says, how do you think this will affect Odegaard's role? Because he's our main playmaker, but also drops deep with Zubimendi, who's a deep line playmaker. This will make Odegaard more of a 10, which I don't know if he can do. I would say this, that I was just having this conversation online before, and you guys know my thing with Odegaard is that the narrative around him not being a good creator only came about when the left center mid became a mirage. In the 2022-2023 season, nobody was saying that Odegaard was a bad creator. Nobody was saying that, we needed another number 10. Nobody was saying that he was a problem. It only became a problem when the left center mid was nothing, and instantly when you have a left center mid that's extremely low touch, Xhaka was taking at least 50 touches a game. And you went from that to the Marinos and the Kai Havertzes that only touched the ball 15, 16 times. And Xhaka made a lot of use of the touches that he had anyway. It wasn't like he was just passing it sideways and backwards. He was making very progressive passes. He was crossing the ball in. He was doing a lot of good work. And he could also drop in next to Partey, which allowed Odegaard to be more free. Nobody had a problem with that 2 years ago. It's only become the narrative now because he has to drop deep. And he's not doing a good job doing the creation side because he has to do two jobs in the midfield. He's not allowed to just float anymore. He must drop deep or else we can't progress the ball because we have a left center mid that, like I said, is he in the room with us? Is the left center mid in the room with us? So we'll see how it works out. I'm not a fan even of Declan in the left center mid because I just feel like it needs to be somebody that wants the ball and uses the ball well, that can take 50 touches a game. And a lot of those touches are progressive. A lot of those touches are between the lines. They're really good whipped in crosses to the back post. They're good shots from outside the box. Xhaka did a lot of good stuff in those little pockets with Zinchenko and Martinelli. And since that's been gone, the left-hand side has pretty much been a mirage, So I think two things can be true at the same time, that I think we need more creativity in the team. And I think, let's say that we do go with this structure. And so that lets Odegaard be more free. If Odegaard is more free, he's going to create more chances. Just point blank. The narrative around him not being creative only really stems from him actually having to be everybody's midfielder, and that's just, nobody is asked to do all the creativity. We also don't have a center forward with any sort of creativity. We don't have a left wing that offers any creativity, and we don't have a left center mid that offers any creativity. So, if Declan Rice maintains that position, then at least the left wing needs to be a more creative player. If we don't have that, we will still lack creativity. You can't go from having Xhaka, Saka, Odegaard, and Jesus offering creativity to just Odegaard and Saka. So we need to infuse some creativity and also attackers that can create their own moments. Because without that, you are fucked. So I don't have a problem with Odegaard being the number 10. I actually have been calling for him having more space, more freedom to float around so that he can do his job and release him of some of this burden of having to drop deep. He's the only reason why people feel like he's better dropping deep is because we went almost an entire year without another midfielder that could help us build up. The Xhaka role has been it's not there anymore. I don't know how people do not see that most times we're playing with two midfielders. Marino took 16 touches against Man United in that first half. Again, Xhaka's taking 50 in one game, and he's using the ball well. So he needs help. Like MM is saying, Odegaard needs help, a creative ball carrier or something. And so that left wing position, unfortunately, if this is how it remains, and we have Zubimendi, Odegaard, and Rice, then the left wing cannot be Martinelli. It's going to have to be someone else. It's going to have to be somebody that can create their own moments. Because I heard somebody else talking about this. It wasn't necessary, I think it was on a space, and I just, was listening to it. And I wasn't saying anything, but I was just listening. And they were saying that when you watch other wingers play, when they get the ball, they can hold it for 6-7 seconds and either beat a man and get up the pitch, or they can hold on to the ball and find a man, or, do something. There's another action that they can utilize to hold on to the ball for a little bit longer. I think we lack that a lot. I just don't think we have anybody that we can pass it into. That what Martinelli's main thing is, if he gets it and he's by himself, he either loses it or just dribbles with his head down. And so I think if you bring in at least a left winger and a striker, really, because Kai Havertz isn't really any better at it, is somebody that can hold the ball for 6 or 7 seconds and just get us to the next action, that would help a lot. Players that can actually create their own actions, can actually create their own chances would be useful, because then if you have games where Saka and Odegaard are not playing at their tip-top best, it's not like you can't create shit, and then make sure the left wing offers some sort of creativity and is not basically just a goal scorer. I think a lot more things are going to have to change, so yeah. Kwame says, oh yeah, you guys are talking to each other. Marco says, kudos. Elijah says, you're being disingenuous about Marino's touches by only using the United game. He got 60 touches against Brighton. How many I don't even think his touches so I'm actually not being disingenuous, because when we actually did the match reaction, I said that was probably Marino's best first half when he was utilizing the ball well, but that was just like one time. So yeah, I mean, if you think that, first of all, being pedantic doesn't work with me, because if you're saying that, so Marino is the answer, so Marino is doing just as good of a job as Xhaka, and we've upgraded. If that's not what you're saying, then your point is null and void. He had one game against Brighton, especially in the first half, where he utilized the ball pretty well. I actually don't think we were bad against Brighton in that first half. I thought that was his best game, and then he fell off an absolute cliff in the second. So I'm not sure, where we're trying to go. What are you trying to say? Because Marino is still not offering what Xhaka was offering. Sorry, and I don't even, did Odegaard play in that? Yeah, I think Odegaard did play in that Brighton game. And we suffered after the second half started. So yeah, our complex says Xhaka is way better. I don't know how people are watching this and not seeing that we need a left center mid that wants to do stuff on the ball. We need a left center mid that's going to get it and create an action, more than a wall pass, more than taking a touch and just hitting it to the next player. You need somebody that can do the next thing. You know what I mean? So let's not, I don't think I'm actually being disingenuous. I actually think you're being disingenuous using those 60 touches. And then, well, in the one game he had 60 touches. Well, do you think that he's the answer then? Because if he's not, then what are you talking about? Our complex says Rice needs to be the 6 and Odegaard in the 8 and Trossard in the 10. That is the best way to use what we have. Funny thing about words winning ways is that I was just saying that, how do you think, he would be if he didn't have Xhaka in his midfield? Because again, like, as good as Wirtz is, obviously, like, he's a fabulous player, and he's probably a little bit more of like the traditional number 10 than, Odegaard is. But make no mistakes about it. If you put him in our team and you say, well, you know what, I need you to do 2 roles. I need you to press. I need you to drop deep and start our attacks from the goalkeeper, because sometimes Odegaard receives the ball from the goalkeeper. Sometimes he receives it from the center backs. He does all of the tempo control. And then I also need you to be our sole creator in midfield. Our left center mid, he's not going to help you out. He's not going to be there, so don't look at him. Don't look at him. This is all you're going to have. How do you think he would deal with it? This is a player that you guys really like that is also playing with Granit Xhaka right now. And Granit Xhaka, as much as you don't like I hate going back to Granit, because I feel like we're giving him a little bit too much credit, but he was kind of like a load-bearing wall. And you can't just remove him and then just put somebody in there that just wants to do wall passes. Xhaka was not doing wall passes. He wasn't. So, yeah, I like Wirtz, though. I think Wirtz is a good player. We're not getting him, but he's a really good player, John P says, hi, Jess. Just joined. Hope you're not affected by the fire. It's good to see you. I am fine. Thank you so much. And I'm doing well. Like, I actually like, chit-chatting to you guys, and we actually have things to talk about. So yeah, but let's move forward. I kind of touched on it already. Zinni is in discussions to go to Dortmund. And I think that'd be a really good place for him. Honestly, I think he'd do well there. I think more space, less tactical league, more of just like vibes. Nobody really gives a fuck. If you concede goals in the Bundesliga, just go forward and attack. I think he'd do really good there. I don't think his physical incapabilities are going to haunt him, there as much. And we need to get him off the books, to be honest. Dortmund are exploring a deal to sign Alexander Zinchenko. Concrete talks have already taken place with the players' management, and the last days are ongoing. The 28-year-old left back is keen to leave Arsenal. The Gunners are open for a loan with an obligation to buy of approximately 20 million euros. And Dortmund did have interest last summer. So yeah, you're not getting your whole money back, and you would never get all your money back for Zinchenko. He's been injured almost the entire time. He hasn't played in the last 2 years. So you're not going to get all your money back, but getting something is important. And a loan with an obligation, I'd bite your hand off for that. What is that? 16 million, pounds, 100 something million off the wage books. And his spot has already been taken by a 17-year-old. Like, it's the perfect time to sell him. Absolute perfect time to sell him. We should have sold him in the summer, but this is just as, sell him now. I'm okay with that, MM says Zinchenko 2022-2023 streets won't forget, part of the pink kick gang, and he was good in that season. I don't even think, we don't need to rewrite history. I think we have, sorry, I blanked out. Hold on real quick. Give me 1 second. Let me just, I'm like glitching a little bit. Give me 1 second. Let me just restart real quick. Let me just reload the site. Okay. Let me know if you guys can see me and hear me. But yeah, I think it was like Zinchenko was really good in that season, so we don't have to pretend like he wasn't. But I think the physical cliff, he's kind of hit that, and we haven't really been able to find that groove again. We've seen bits and pieces of Zinchenko in the last 2 seasons, but it's never consistent. I remember in those preseason games, he was pretty good. But then he instantly got injured. And so, I say this all the time, and I know you guys think I'm harsh, but you need to get rid of injury prone players immediately. Because they're never going to be fit when you need them to, and they're never going to have that magical season where they're just randomly fit. They're going to miss more time than you want them to. And so 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have a gun-to-one situation where he was injury prone at Dortmund and just was perfect at City. That doesn't happen for us. Injury prone players tend to, we get injury prone players that were never injured before, and then we buy injury prone players and expect them not to be on the medical table every single week. Zinchenko, Jesus, Tommy, these guys, they got to cut. They have to cut, and the sooner that you do it, the better, because the longer they sit on our bench and the longer that they get these injuries, the less likely it is for us to move them on. So yeah, it's no hard feelings. It's not that I don't think those players have quality, but also the continual injuries also prevent you from getting up to the level that you remembered you to be at. And like Jesus of that initial season that he came in, that was so long ago. I hate even talking about it because it's so long ago. It was in 2022 where he was the player that, came in and changed everything for us. That was like those best forward performances that I've seen at Arsenal since Alexis Sanchez. Like outside of Aubameyang before people try to kill me, but I mean like forwards, not strikers, you know what I mean? And I know that Jesus meant to be a striker, but you guys know what I mean. Like, he was electric. He was taking people on. He, made us so much better. That was in 2022. We're in 2025 now, so it was also confirmed that, Jesus, it is an ACL injury, and that's extremely unfortunate. The biggest thing with players when they get these reoccurring injuries and big ones like this is their mental health. That's always something that I think about. And so I don't know if he can come back from this, and that's not really the time. This isn't really the time to speculate on what his future holds. But I think in the short term for Arsenal, that creates a complexity that goes back to my point that you should always sell before it's obvious. Because if we sold Jesus this past summer, even for not not a great fee, because I know some people still think we'll get like 40 million for Jesus. We'd be lucky to get 25 at this stage. If we had sold Jesus for 30 million this past summer, he'd be somebody else's situation now, and if we can't sell him, which is highly unlikely, like it's unlikely that we will be able to sell him with the ACL injury, is that those wages that we were meant to be offloading in order for us to get that big attacking signing won't be available. So it's a lesson, don't buy players that have injury records to begin with. Don't expect them to be different. When they start to, if you do, and they start to show their ugly head, you need to cut earlier and stop being nostalgic and stop being so soft. Get rid. There are teams that buy players and in the next 6 months they're on the chopping block, and we're just not ruthless enough when it matters. You'll cut freaking Ozaloft or cut Aubameyang off, which are two things that I thought needed to happen. Cut Ramsdale when you need to. I thought that needed to happen as well. But when it comes to these players that you like, it takes too long. It takes too long to move them on. So, it's not personal on Jesus, but I was laughed at when I said we needed to sell him halfway through last season. And it's not like an I told you so, but I just feel like I can't understand how we see this same pattern over and over again. And the overall thing is, yeah, but he was good 2 years ago. We have to let him get back up to. No, we don't. Injury prone players 9 times out of 10 maintain that throughout their career. We bought him when he was injury prone, and it wouldn't be as big of an issue if we had instantly the next summer bought a striker, like a lot of us were talking about. If he, then he could be injury prone and it wouldn't matter. But you didn't buy a striker. And so now we're kind of in this weird space. And now I'm seeing people panic. And I'm like, yeah, you guys are panicking now. I've been panicking for a while. I've subsided through the panic already. If you don't sell Jesus, it's not looking good. Them wages are a big problem, so you can cut out all the big people that are going to take those 200 and something thousand pounds a week. Those are your Isaks, your Osimhens, those types of guys that are not going to take 100 million pounds a week. You are looking at Sesko. He's somebody that is probably on 30,000 pounds a week and will be excited to take 100,000 pounds a week. Jordan says Jesus needs to be sold. Almost impossible now with the ACL. It's like you're not going to get to sell him. It's not happening. So we needed to sell him. We don't need to sell him. We needed to sell him before. It's too obvious now to sell him. The whole fire in his belly and stuff, I was like, this is going to come back. I could not have imagined that it would backfire this badly. I just thought he'd have a terrible season. But the way that the karma has just rippled through our season, there's just no way that this club cannot sit back and reflect and think to themselves, we've made quite a few fatal errors here, and now they need to untangle it. And it can be untangled. It's not all is lost, but they need to start making the right decisions from now. Let's see. Boy says no one wanted to sell Jesus in the summer. No point in being upset now. I did. It's not no one. I did. Actually, a lot of people said we need to move on Jesus. Let's not rewrite history. A lot of us were saying we need to sell Jesus. It was a smaller group than the people that were believing the fire in the belly. But yeah, I do get to be upset right now because I did think that we needed to sell him. So you don't get to be upset because maybe you fell for fire in the belly, or, you don't know people that wanted him sold. But there is actual evidence on these interwebs that I said that he needed to be sold and people laughed. Oh my gosh, how could you sell a player of this quality? So no, I get to be upset. I get to be annoyed by it. More people should want players sold that don't hit the marks. Stop being nostalgic and being, soft. And we don't owe him anything. TB says we are getting what we deserved, and it's sad that we don't learn. And so that leads me to, how do we fix that in the summer as well? I've seen people suggest it. I know we won't do it, but you got to sell one of these people on these big wages this summer in order to get a big, if you want to get a Nico Williams, he might be able to lower his salary a little bit, but how much, how much is he going to lower his salary? So there is like one player that you could probably get rid of, but I know they won't. But I think a serious club would consider it. I think a serious club would consider it. Not even like from like a negative, like trying to beat down on him, but it hasn't worked out. It's obviously a signing that will struggle to move on for a decent fee, but I would, just to relieve those wages. I would. Sorry. I would. John P says Nico is demanding 30,000 a week. He's on 200K now. Jordan says, Jess, we have to talk about this Martinelli guy. We are not winning any majors with him in our attack. I mean, I said it earlier. If the midfield is Rice, Odegaard, and Jorginho, the left winger can most certainly cannot be Martinelli. It needs to be somebody that's more creative. It needs to be somebody that has more actions. It has to be somebody that can think, beyond just dribbling straight. It needs to be somebody that's more than a finisher. It needs to be somebody that offers their feet and they don't just instantly lose it. So yeah, Foxy says, I noticed you were linked to a forward, Igor Jesus from Botafogo. I think they said that they didn't want to let him go on a loan. Mata says Nelly as a backup is fine though with his pace. Maybe, yeah, I'd have him in the team as a backup. John P says we need at least 3 new guys in our forward line. Absolutely, we need a striker, a winger, and an attacking mid. We do. We need all 3 of those things. TB says our highest paid player ain't the captain, ain't the striker, and ain't the Haaland. It's a false 9, failed midfielder. Boy says DG would lose it if we got Igor Jesus because he watches anime. Alistair Ben says sell Martinelli and sign Anthony Gordon. We won't be able to get anybody from Newcastle. I'll tell you that right now. They're never going to sell us anything. I don't know who needs to tell you, but they're not going to do business with us. Not even if we have the money, Herbo says, I don't really rate Nico, to be honest. I would like to get Rafael Leao over Nico. Leao is more explosive than Nico. Yeah, I get the Leao loving, he's definitely a highlights player. And whenever he does good things, it's all over the timeline. You just got to you just can't do nothing. I think that's, can't just do nothing. So he's not like my favorite answer or my favorite option, so, but we could do something. I don't know what this says. This is in Portuguese. Can somebody say that, hold on. Let me do like a translate. Hold on. Oh, here's a translate. Jorginho receives his first polls to return to Brazil. Palmeiras closes the door to signing in the summer, but not so Flamengo. Cariocas talk to their environment. Arsenal is reluctant to let him leave in January without a transfer. He'll be free in June. And this is our problem. So no Palmeiras. They don't want to sign him in the summer, but not so Flamengo want to sign him. I don't know what's going on, but I don't understand why we wouldn't let him go now and get a fee. I don't know why we'd hold on to him. What are we holding on to? I don't get it. Whatever. I don't know. Let's see. John P says, I am a big fan of the Sesko transfer. He reminds me of how we saw Isak when he was at Sociedad, very high ceiling. It's so obvious. Brian says, if Zubimendi means that Rice still plays as an attacking mid, then I don't want it. Can't score goals, but here another CDM. And also Rice would need to really double down. And here's my thing on what I want from Arteta is to double down on something. I think this constant wanting everybody to do multiple roles, constantly wanting, there's nothing wrong with versatility, and there's nothing wrong with wanting your team to, be committed to defense and all that kind of stuff. But you need to double down on certain things and let some people just do what they do best, or, let them do one role so that they're not so learning too many things at one time. I think Arteta complicates things quite a bit. Odegaard needs to just be the creative person in the pocket. That doesn't mean he can't start the press, but you need to release him from having to do the build-up role, because build-up plus being your only creator is not working. If Havertz is going to be your striker, just leave him in the box. Don't have him go wide. Don't have him do nonsense. Make his job very simple. Get on the end of these crosses or you come out. With Rice, if your thing is you want him to play 8, then double down and make him play 8. Don't keep making him go back and forth. That's not helping him learn anything. I think you have to do something consistently over and over and tunnel vision on one thing, then trying to learn how to play 6 for Arsenal in some games and then also learn how to play 8 for Arsenal in others. You're stunting his growth. If you think long term he might be the 6th, then just leave it for later. But Arteta doesn't double down on anything. Winning Way says Havertz being the highest paid player is crazy. Any big name player agent will look at that and demand more. Jerome says, fellow Arsenal fans, please forget Isak. Newcastle don't want to do business with us. They hate us. Exactly. I don't know why people keep talking about it. Herbo says, we must stop making excuses and step up in the transfer before Man City catches up again, as they already made 3 signings already and we made none. John P says, is Real Madrid still thinking of loaning Endrick or Galler? I think with their injury problems, they'd be silly to get rid of anybody, if I'm honest. Jordan says, agreed, Jess. Arteta overcomplicates things. He's burning out the team with all these tactical instructions. Why do you think we can't keep a fullback fit? It's not just because some of them are injury prone. It's because they have to do too much. And it's outside of what they can do. Center back should just play center back. Get you a left back that's used to running up and down the wing and, doing a little inside. It's too much. Especially when you have guys that are already been injured, to ask them to do that role is stressful on the body. Just because Ben White can do it and really we ran him into the ground doesn't mean everybody should do it. Just make it more simple. Simplify. The more simplified our system is, I think the better we'll be. The less roles people have to do, I think the better, because a lot of people do too many roles, and it just infuriated me that Arteta could figure out a way to get Martinelli central, and he only just decided to do it against Man United, and then we'll probably never see it again. If you know how to get Martinelli central, and I know he missed chances, but he is so much more likely to score a goal when the answer is more obvious and he's running in behind than this whole gimmick on the wing. Just build your system to make sure that Martinelli gets central, give more Odegaard more freedom, let Declan Rice play in a double pivot next to the 6 so that he can still carry the ball forward, because he can't carry the ball into the final third, but I don't think he's the person that you want carrying the ball into the box. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he's the person that when it's a crowd scene or in and around the box, you want him there. But do you want him carrying it through midfield to the final third? Yes. You can only do that if your starting position is deeper. If your position is in the front 5, then there is no room for him to carry it the way that you want him to, because he can't play in the pocket. So let him play in a double pivot next to the 6 like Jorginho and Rice did at the back end of last season, and fucking cut it out with the inverting. Please, simplify. Estes, on a scale of Havertz to Cole Palmer, how single are you? I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. Lonesome says, hi, Jess. How do you feel about the news about Zubimendi summer deal, given that we're in need of signings now? I think I kind of said, earlier that glass half full is a signing. Whether you like the player or not, that position needs to be addressed in the summer. We should be losing 2 DMs this summer. We should be losing Partey and Jorginho. And so filling that position with Zubimendi and then allowing Miles Lewis-Skelly to be the backup to him, and then also knowing that Declan can play there in a pinch too if you need it, should be more than enough cover. So I'm okay with that, especially if this is somebody that you really wanted. So this should make your system work. You're getting your players. And we can stop with the stop gaps, because really Marino, Jorginho, and Partey all feel like short-term solutions to a long-term problem. The glass half empty is that it could be the case that they're dropping this information because they know they're under pressure and the fans are not happy. So they want us to know about it. And even though we need it, we know that in seasons gone past that we've addressed something that wasn't quite, the main thing. And then we ended up not getting the main thing, So this past summer, people were screaming, like, I don't know why Arsenal fans are so mad that we're getting Calafiori. We need a left back, only for us to get to the final day of the transfer window and end up with Sterling because they were so confident that Arsenal would not go through that window and not get an attacker. News flash. Know your club. Your club will miss out on obvious targets all the time. That is who they are. They will chase left backs and goalkeepers and DMs before they even think about getting an attacker. So I understand the concern about us already like putting, basically putting the money down for a Zubimendi release clause, which is different than paying in installments, right? So already having that, and then also having that distrust with the board because if we trusted Arsenal, this would be an exciting news. Because you would know that in January, just because we're getting this, in January, we're going to attack the window. But there's zero trust that we're going to get these deals done in January and improve the squad so we can win something now. And there's zero trust that in the summer we'll get it done because it's always next season, next summer, next blah, blah, blah. So I think there's a glass half full and a glass half empty for it. I think it's important not to always think from the negative standpoint of everything, but or too positive. But I like Zubimendi. Is it what I want in 2025? No. If I had gotten this news a year ago, I would have been ecstatic. That's how things change, Jerome says, I don't think we will get a striker this window. If we do anything, it'll be a winger. Boy says, exactly, Jess. People are telling me to trust the club that has goofed around for decades. Jordan says, I guarantee you, man, we wouldn't say none of this disrespectful things to my face. So keep the same energy online, please. Let's not be disrespectful. Let's be normal. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Elvis says, if we don't sign a striker in January, we'll end up playing Gabriel as center forward because he's the only fit player with a goal threat. Kwame says, Victor is not a surprise for us ahead. Yeah, I mean, Forest have, looks like they have Liverpool's number. Biggest concern is we don't win the league. Second biggest concern is that Forest have a Leicester season and we don't finish at, ahead of them. Because Forest have no additional, when you have no stress on you, so easy to perform. They're not really getting any injuries. They're active in the market, trying to improve their squad. They do think that they can win the league. Forest are definitely not a team that are like, oh, well, if we're, not doing like Chelsea. They think that they can win the league. And if you're in their position, you have to try to win it. So, yeah, Forest could definitely probably do a Leicester, and that would be very damaging for us. So, yeah, I mean, the only, and this is something that, I'm sorry, Arsenal should look at this and be like, if Forest were able to nick something from Liverpool, that we are still very much so in the title race. So why would you just sit on your hands and do fuck all? Go out there and be serious for 1 minute. Go out there and get, a striker and a winger and let's get on with it. It's so annoying that this guy, he would not score against his team. He would not score against City when we needed him to, but now all of a sudden he wants to score all these goals. Fuck him. Kwame says, absolutely right, Jess. It's an embarrassment against us. So any scenario where we don't win the league is an embarrassment for us. So yeah, we definitely need to be serious. But if I woke up on the final day of the season, a final day of the transfer window, and we didn't sign anybody, I would not be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we didn't sign anybody. You know how Arsenal do, so yeah. What's it called? Let's see. Even if we got Jonathan David, I think we could get another striker like Gyökeres and they could battle it out. I mean, I was telling my friend this the other day, is that I feel like Blaze, by the way, this is not me angry. This is not me angry. Like, when I'm angry, you will know. Like, this is not it. But yeah, I think like if Arsenal did a loan for Vlahovic, who's not my favorite player and definitely not somebody that I'm like, I would be that excited for, I would at least back it from the standpoint that I feel like they're trying, you know? I do not like the whole, yeah, but Arsenal are waiting for the summer and, they're trying to be smart and, it's so difficult to operate in this window. It's not that hard to operate in the window. You don't want to. And so even if it didn't work out and we loaned in Vlahovic and we still didn't win the title, I just cannot stand not doing anything. I'd rather see the club try. And, he's not somebody that I would want long term. But listen, if you loaned him in for 6 months and then went to go get Sesko in the summer, I'm not going to complain, but I will complain if we do fuck all. We have to do something, do something. Blaze says, I can understand how he didn't score against City. I can understand how he didn't score against City. I was shocked when he missed. He couldn't score against his team. He's a City fan. Mata says, just angry with signing Jorginho January 31st, 2023. Yeah, that was angry. The Jorginho crash out and then the Mudryk crash out. If you want to see just angry, that was me angry. This is not me angry. Natalie says Trossard will stay, but longer than 1 year. I heard January conversation again with him. Burmy says at least get an attacker on loan to salvage the season. Exactly. And like I said this before, like if a long-term injury to Saka isn't enough for you to act in the window, then what is? Because like the January window has been open. I think Saka may have gotten injured right before. I don't know. He's been injured for like 3 weeks now, but like the window opened, Saka was injured, Wanyeri got injured, and also now Jesus got injured. And there still feels like there's a reluctancy to do anything in this window. The fact that they think that we could go through multiple games with Sterling, Trossard, Havertz, and Martinelli as our only fit attackers is it's so disappointing. It lacks any sort of like seriousness. Seriously, like how can I take you serious as a club? And this is, and I'm not even trying to be like oh my gosh, they're just so negative all the time, blah, blah, blah. But like genuinely, even if you're a positive person, surely you expect Arsenal to act with a long-term Saka injury, Wanyeri out, also Jesus out. Surely you expect them to act. This is not me sitting here saying, I need Arsenal to go buy 4 strikers this summer and get me 3 players in January. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying surely even the most positive of positive can see that this is ridiculous. Surely you go out into the window and try to make something happen. Surely you see the likes of like, I don't want him, but the Mawani and Marmoush and these guys moving around. And you can't really, like with chess, say that there's nothing out there or, it's so difficult to move in the window, especially when you keep briefing the media that you ain't got no problems with PSR. If you said we have problems with PSR and we ain't got no money and we're scant, that's a completely different conversation to me than we have the money, but we just don't want to act. That is more damning to me. Because Arsenal being scant is like, okay, so you guys fucked up the money. Cool. Haven't sold a lot, spent a lot of money, you're scant, fine. But to say that we have money and we don't have problems with PSR, but we just don't want to do anything or we don't think there's anything worth doing, surely even the most positive Arsenal fan has to look at that and be like, this is stupid. John P says, this reminds me of screaming at the TV at Wenger for years to buy a DM. Let's see. Natalie says 4 attackers too small. The McChronicle says even the toxic positive Gunners have been attacking the board. Exactly. Like this is why, like, and I get it. Fan channels are not fun when we're not doing well. And so the low-hanging fruit is to focus on fan channels and not focus on the club that is like giving fuel for fan channels to basically talk about the negative things that are happening at the club. I think it's so weird that there are sections of this fan base that cannot get their head out of their ass for 1 second and say, you know what, the club is not doing good enough right now. Whether you think it's Arteta focus, board focus, players focus, the club Arsenal is not doing well enough right now. Regardless of what AFTV is saying, sorry, I like some of those guys. I love James. I think Dan is a great content creator. I like a lot of these people. I know them behind the scenes. They just don't they're not just always screaming for the sake of it and to make money. A lot of them are just like, we're the same age and we're tired of watching the same shit over and over again. So instead of blaming them every single time that we don't do something we're supposed to and we become a laughing stock, how about you look at the club and say, why are we shit? You know, if we're not crap, we have like the negatives don't have anything to talk about, you know? It's crazy. Jerome says, Jess, it's negligence, plain and simple. Yeah, it is negligence. The Arsenal perspective says we've gone beyond the surely stage. We are so much at the bare bones. We have no choice. Arsenal not signing would be a surprise in these current circumstances. Burmy says Jesus would have probably been sold this summer, but now with the extensive injury and recovery time, that is unlikely to happen, which is why you need to sell before it's obvious. You know, we didn't sell Nketiah and, you know, ESR the season like the summer prior, and Arteta didn't use them. And we could have sold both of those and got in a Kudus, somebody that we would actually utilize. That may have been the difference between us drawing blanks against Aston Villa, drawing blank against West Ham. There's a ripple effect from this holding on to players for the fucking sake of it. And Nketiah was never good enough to play for Arsenal. And if you were just going to bury ESR on the bench, you should have just sold him a season earlier. You must sell earlier than when it's expected. Once it's obvious, you ain't getting nothing, you know? Murdang says agreeing verbally doesn't mean done deal. If you trigger the release clause, he is yours and he can get deregistered from blah, 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 blah. Arsenal have had a verbal agreement with the player, not with Real Sociedad. I mean, if you want to, you know, go in between the houses and tell me it's not done, obviously he's not in the red shirt, so it's not done, you know, but by all accounts, you know, they're saying that it will be a done deal, you know, so if you don't think it's going to happen, you don't think it's going to happen. That's fine, you know. Jerome says, I'd hold the L on Jesus and rip up the contract, and I do the same with Havertz. That frees up a lot of wages. Cold, but that's what I do. Yeah, I don't really understand what the role for like Havertz would be. And like that was something that I saw earlier today as well, that you know, obviously reiterating again, you know, because I've been told that I made this up, but it's been reiterated again by good sources that, you know, Arteta had to convince them to bring in Havertz and nobody really knew what his role would be. And as we get further down the line, it's clear that the only role that he could have in the team is as a squad player. He is never going to be anybody that I would ever suggest to be our main striker long term, or our main midfielder for long term. I just don't think there's been enough there to say that we don't need to buy in those positions. It's so clear that we need to buy in those positions. And so, but can you have a squad player on your highest wages? No. And so that leads me to it's just, I think a smart club tries to sell him this summer. I know that sounds really, really harsh, but if you take your emotions out of it and you're, you know, as a club, humble just a little bit, it wasn't the right signing. It never was. And it's so much better to fix the mistake early and say, you know what? That wasn't right. You know, it didn't make up. It didn't work out. You know, it's so much easier to do that and then try to fix it quickly than allow it to become something where you do buy those additional players. He does get kind of lost on the bench. His value plummets even worse. And then you really can't sell him for anything. You know, you could probably get somebody in Germany to buy him now for 30 million and get those wages off, you know, but I know we won't do it because Arteta's still trying to convince us that it was the right signing, even though it's just not. It just wasn't. And it's not about hating Havertz or thinking he's a bad guy or thinking that he's always played poorly for us. You just can't buy somebody and make him your highest earner, and he's not playing like the highest earner. You just can't. He's on higher wages than Saka. That makes no sense, you know? So, yeah. Winning Way says, I bet if we got Isak in some dream world, Arteta is the kind of guy that would fit Havertz. He would play Isak left wing and Havertz on the middle. And I spoke to somebody the other day that suggested it, and I almost threw the phone up against the wall. Now that made me angry. I was like, how could you watch Isak play? How could you, in a dream world, we spend 100 and something million on Isak this summer. That is the dream world. How on earth would you buy somebody that expensive and that good at playing striker and shunt him to the wing to keep Havertz in the team? The fact that an Arsenal fan considered that and said that to me and sent that to my phone, I was like, he has fully grabbed your brain and he has control of your brain, Mikel, because only somebody that's been, taught by Mikel for 5 years would think that that makes sense. You could never, ever do that. How, could we play a 2-striker system? No, just drop him. Just drop him. Just drop him. I don't want to play a 2-striker system because you know what? I don't even know if he'd be good playing off of the striker. I don't. His touch is not good enough. He's not creative enough. He's just somebody that you're trying to fit into the team for the sake of it. Victor says he would 100% play him left wing. That's such an Arteta thing. The way that he did with Aubameyang, yeah. The Arsenal perspective says Havertz fits a traditional 4-4-2 system, second striker, not the main number 9 in my humble opinion. And I wouldn't want to change the system to try to get him in. I wouldn't, and that's why I think a smart club would try to figure out a way to move him on in the summer, especially knowing that you won't be able to get Jesus's wages off the books. You need to get one of them out in order to release those really, like if you want the Leaos, you want players like that, those are the types of wages you'll have to offer them. You're not going to get Leao on 100,000 pounds a week. You could probably get a Barcola or, one of these types of guys on 100,000 pounds a week. You're not getting Leao on no 100,000 pounds a week. He's going to want 200 something thousand pounds a week. And those wages just are not just going to be just like there when you think about all of the players that we need to bring in. So, you think about it this way. One of the strikers is probably going to want that amount unless you get Sesko, and definitely one of the wingers, unless you want to go 2 young players. So, yeah, I would be definitely looking to move him on in the summer. But it's a year. It's probably a year before it's time, because we'll be sitting here in 2027 and it'll be a popular opinion to move him on. It's just so obvious to start trying to look for him out, Christopher says Havertz fits no system. He's awful respectfully. He's just, I don't like players where you don't know what their position is because instantly you're like, they just don't fit, MM says, all I'm going to say is Chelsea made a mistake with Nkunku and they're looking to sell him proactiveness. Nkunku's been there for a hot fucking second and he's not working out. And it's like, we could be trying to do that. We could be trying to get, somebody like a young striker, Matthias Tell or whatever his name is from Bayern and giving them Havertz. They're German Don. They play him and Nkunku play in the same position, that kind of second strikery 10 role, but we're not smart enough to do that because we're like, no, we have to make him work. No, why? We need to try to be winning trophies, not trying to make Havertz happen. Rob says Zubimendi is the one midfielder we've been linked to that I've liked the look of. Good player. I like that. The Arsenal perspective says, have you heard the Moises Kean rumors? Any traction to that? No, I have not. Moises Kean? Nah, bro. Oh, look at it. Isn't he at Fiorentina? 24, finding his form. 20, bring Moises Kean to the Emirates. Vlahovic stinking up the pitch. Arsenal are interested in signing Moise Kean. Where is the actual, like who is this coming from? I just see people saying it, but yeah, whatever. Wouldn't be my first choice, but whatever. Phoenix says, if you build a team from the back, then your midfield and your strikers and if you build a team, it's from the back, then your midfield and your strikers. It's criminal. They never address the striker in the summer. Jerome says Zubi is a good player, good move, Arsenal, but what are we doing now? And I think that's what most people care about. It really hasn't stopped the Arsenal fans from wanting the players that are going to help us do things at the top end of the pitch. So I think if Arsenal, their whole goal, which I'm not 100% sure that this is their goal, but, there's a school of thought that they would drop something like this, to help distract us from bad form and all this kind of stuff, I don't know if that's exactly what they're doing, but it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked, so they need to go ahead and buy someone, but yeah. We've been going for an hour and 30 minutes, and I know you guys are watching the Liverpool Nottingham Forest game, so we'll go ahead and end it there. Also, I need to do some work. But make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel on your way out. Obviously, we play Spurs tomorrow. Didn't really do a proper preview for it, but just don't fuck around. Just win. I don't have time for this. What do you want me to say about the lineup? It's ragtag. It is what it is. I'm sure Arteta tried to save Partey Rice dynamic for this game, so I expect them to start. I expect Odegaard to start. What do we have up front? We only have Havertz and Martinelli and Raheem Sterling, so that's probably who will start. And then the back line will be what it is. Just win. The lineup picks itself, like Arsenal Perspective says. Do not have me back here talking about a loss at home to the scum. So like and subscribe on your way out, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.